I talked about this in the last video, did it at MI40. It's a really cool gym, but just structuring workouts like in your mind. So like people write me a lot of the time, a lot of people write me on Instagram. I try to get back to people as much as I can. Not that I'm like inundated, it's just sometimes I forget because my mind's going a million miles an hour, right? So it's like, when you set up structure of workouts, don't be so concerned with like we did a video with Jay. Yeah, Jay Living Good. So me and Jay did a video where it's like, he said in the video is like, when everything with Mike is like, it's like backwards. But it's like, it's not. Because it's however you decide you want to train, right? So I know when I train shoulders, I have issues with my shoulder. I have a really bad right shoulder because I had a pec tear here, and over the years it's just turned into like a mess, right? So I don't have a lot of range of motion in my shoulders. I'm good like up to about shoulder height. But as soon as I go above my head or 90 degrees, it's just not happening, right? So I know for my shoulder workout, it's gonna be primarily rear delt. So I'm gonna do a lot of isolation movements on rear delt. So I don't wanna bring into it my trap and all this stuff. So I'll do one arm opening. Like I've done it in other videos. I did it with Joe Seaman. It's like just one arm opening and then maybe dumbbell, like a toss out on a dumbbell reverse throw out. And I'll do cable pull downs like we've done before, right? So I'll really get a lot of blood into my rear delt area without stressing everything else around it, so that when I go to do delts like laterals and things like that, and lateral variations, I have a lot of blood in there already, and I can also stimulate my rear delt, so I can, when I start doing more side lateral stuff, I'm catching a lot more rear delt because I've activated it, right? Whereas a lot of guys they'll start with like heavy shit like pressing and all this stuff, and it's almost like you bring so much blood to your shoulder that you don't know where each individual area of your shoulder is, because now it's just this pumped up area. And like I did like heavy shoulder presses, and now I'm like, oh, there's blood in there, and I just go and push out, and like I don't know where stuff is. Where I want to, in my mind, I think shoulders, because they get so much work on every fucking upper body part, and even on back, even on leg days, like you're supporting through your back, you're holding in your shoulders, you're doing all this stuff, they always get stressed, right? I just think shoulders should be more of an isolation thing, where it's like I'm gonna do laterals now, but like I'm gonna just really push out on medial head of my delt. I'm not gonna do a lot of front stuff because I get a lot of front on pressing, right? If front was a problem for you and you had crappy front delts, you should obviously do some more front. Girl who's like a figure competitor, and you notice when you stand up tall here, you don't have like this front, you just have a cap. You want more dimension in the front. Well, then it's like, okay, it's time to do some front raises or some type of pressing that's tighter into the body, right? But just you guys, like, and girls, when you structure your workouts, structure it around what your weakness is. So I want to highlight bringing up what I think it needs work, and then I'm going to do the rest of the stuff after. So I know I've stimulated that area and I've woken that area up, let's say, and now so when I go on to my other movements and my pressing movements, I'm more apt to feel that area I want to bring up because it's so full of blood already. So I've almost like injected this pump feeling into like a certain area, like my rear delt, I want it to pump up, and it just sits there the rest of the workout. And then blood starts to fill around these areas, right? It's kind of a weird way to think about it. Like a good amount of people have tagged me in videos of them doing laterals the way I do laterals, but they're making the mistake of, it's like if you guys, if you want a good cue of how to start a lateral like the way I do it, keep doing it your way, it's whatever you choose. But it's like I'm putting my chest way over, so you can see from the side my angle is me leaning forward already. So I'm postured up in my back and my chest is forward. I'm not up tall. I'm here and my arms are hanging, so I'm not holding tension here. I'm just letting my arms swing. So when I go to move, it's literally me pushing out and I'm staying forward and I'm rising up. So it's almost like my arm goes straight and I'm gonna crack my elbow a bit when I go to snap up. But the weight pulls me forward, I drive up, pulls me back to where I was. So it's almost like the dumbbell is always moving on this arc around, but I'm just following it with my body. So I'm keeping tension out on my delt, so that my delt pushing out here is just, I'm just sliding right out on it. And then to get more height, I pop my chest. So it falls into me underneath my chest, I can't see it, and I toss out. So there's not this like huge strain of keeping, a lot of guys and girls are keeping their arms straight and they're not moving their chest at all, and they're just trying, almost like flying away, like, which is fine, that's gonna work too, but it's gonna get like a little sore in your back to keep doing that, whereas to keep it in your body more and just let your hand push out. So almost feel like your armpit's opening at the very last second to get air and then dropping. So I'm not trying to create air the whole time. We're just trying to be on the body and then pop up through. And then when you stand, just to finish it off, because a lot of people die, they can't get the height on the lateral anymore because their muscle gives out. So you can hang down low and just sweep out wide. They get more rear and mid delt again and just push out. So I'm keeping my shoulders down, my hands down, and pushing out low. I'm not picking up. I'm sweeping away from my body and pushing out. Powered by Guy Cisternino today, American hero. The overarching theme that I want people to understand when it comes to like stuff I'm giving people or showing people, one, it's not like the only way to do things. So I am in no means preaching that, oh, my way is the best way and all this stuff, because there's a shit ton of great trainers out there, and it's my desire, having my own channel, to even promote those people. So like if I see someone that's a great trainer, does some cool exercise, or even a guy in the gym who moves really well on something, I want to feature them on my channel, right? Because I want to like people to understand that like good form is good form, and there isn't just one way to do something, and you can learn from everywhere, right? So I just don't, when people like don't do things for themselves and they don't try to get themselves better by learning things from other people, it's like if you see me do something and you're like, oh, that made it click for me, now I understand like how to feel my lat a little better, or what I was doing wrong with my pressing. It's like, that's awesome. Then just take that and run with it, and if you never take advice from me again, cool. I'm glad I helped you with the one thing. If there's other stuff I do, then even better, do you know what I mean? But it's like just creating this atmosphere where like get people out of this bodybuilding mindset where they're almost like zombies and they fucking gravitate towards this, there's only one way to do it, and this is how I do it, and there's no other way. Well, no, man, there's about a fucking thousands of other ways to do things. And there's thousands of other ways to diet, there's other ways to train, there's other ways to put your hand position, your head position, all this stuff. There's all these variables in any given situation, right? But once you choose something, you need to adhere to that to see results, right? And that doesn't mean adhering to it for 3 months. That doesn't mean adhering to it for half a year. That means like I'm sticking to this way of doing things as long as it takes for me to see results, and like I'm gonna put everything I have into it. And then you kind of take an assessment after a certain amount of time that you deem like kind of a normal amount. Like 3 months isn't it, man. 6 months isn't it. Like you gotta give something a year or two to like really work. You have to be consistent about how you eat, how you train, all this stuff, right? You can't just think like, oh, I was doing things this way, now this guy knows how to do stuff, his way is the best way. But you're gonna find out real quick that that guy's way and this guy's way and this guy's way all have intermingling parts. And the fucking missing variable between this guy, and this guy, and this isn't working, and this style isn't working, is fucking you. It's your inability to adhere to a plan and your inability to commit to something. So if you're gonna always be jumping from this training style to that training style to like this diet plan, that diet plan, or this drug protocol and that supplement protocol, it's like you're not giving anything enough time for you to have genuine feedback to know whether it's worth like wasting your time or not. And like bodybuilding is a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. You don't just make up for something all of a sudden. It takes a long time to get better. It takes consistency to get better, and it takes the right mental mind state. So if you're someone that's doubting yourself all the time, and you're constantly like reevaluating yourself, or questioning your coach, or questioning your training, oh, is this the right training because I heard that 3 sets of 10 is better than 4 sets of 5, and oh, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day, guys. Like, I'm sure there's science out there and those guys will write me and be like, oh, this is proven by this and that. Well, a lot of those studies that you're talking about and a lot of this fucking scientific data is practiced on sedentary individuals who don't do shit, or they're fat, or they're just regular people. It doesn't apply to us. We're a different breed. We're a different species compared to normal human beings. You're on enough drugs to fucking make you the Incredible Hulk, right? So understand that your physiology and the way your body reacts to things and the things you do to stimulate it are probably going to be a little different than Joe Schmo, who sits on the couch, works out 2 days a week, and he basically comes here and just moves around equipment. Doesn't even do a workout, right? So it's like you have to take that into account, and you have to like put the onus on you that you're the reason why things work or don't work. You can't be like, oh, my scapegoat is my coach, or my scapegoat is like, I tried this training style and it sucks, I didn't do well with it. Well, like, you probably started off thinking it sucked, hoping that it was going to make a difference. Therefore, you have a negative feedback loop, so it's never going to work because you never believed in it to begin with, right? So that's why I don't tell people when they tell me, oh, how do you train and sets and reps and how do you structure this and that? So I do what I do intuitively because I've done this my whole life, man. I've come to the gym and I've worked out since I was like in 7th grade. I'm 41 years old in a month, right? So I have a long history of knowing what I know works for me and what doesn't work for me. But that doesn't come overnight. So for me to tell you, do things my way, it might not work. But I'll tell you what will work, moving better. So if you learn how to move better in any lift you want to do, so if I hate military press, but you love military press, and someone shows you how to move military press and you feel great, you should military press. If someone tells you not to, tell them to take a hike. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to find what works for you and you have to be efficient in those movements, right? And then you can add stuff on, you can do all this stuff. But if you think that like, you're not mentally strong, your training's subpar because you're not even fucking trying half the time, you're in here wandering around in your phone, doing a set every 5 minutes. If you think that that level of intensity and that level of connection to what you're doing is gonna elicit good results, you're living in a fantasy world. So no one can come in and change that because those two variables are always existing, your lack of dedication and your lack of work ethic. So if those two never change and we bring in another variable, this variable can't change these two things. So if these two things never get fixed, anything outside that comes in will never work because it doesn't plug in properly. Because the connection isn't there, because you're not driven, you're not focused, you're not gonna adhere to a plan, you're not gonna like be blindly following someone, right? You shouldn't blindly follow someone. You should always have like questions in your head. It's okay to ask questions and be like, is this the right way to do it? And if your coach or your trainer is intelligent, they'll be like, yeah, that might be a better way to do it. Let's try it. Because there's no wrong answers, man. Like, whatever works for you, works for you. What worked for Ronnie Coleman worked for Ronnie Coleman. It would kill me. Like, what works for this guy isn't enough stimulation for me. I would fucking be so bored in the gym. But you have to find the method and the plan that works for you and stick to it, and then find someone that can help bring the best out of that. So once you're the best you can be, that's when you bring in someone who can make you better. You don't bring someone in hoping they drag you up by your bootstraps and be like, come on, man, we can do this, which is what a lot of guys seem to do. They seem to bounce around to different people thinking that these different people have the answers. And I'm guilty of it too. My trainer who I trained with when I was coming up, Darren Oliver, who's tattooed on my arm here, after my last show, I did really shit at the New York Pro when I did my first pro show. I did awful. He couldn't come because he injured his knee and he had to get surgery like a week before. So I go there and I do shit, and I'm angry at everybody. I'm thinking it's his fault, it's this guy's fault, me and him get in a fight, me and him argue about stuff because we're like brothers, and we end up having a falling out because I'm an idiot. Because it was my fault. It wasn't his fault. He didn't do anything. Like, it was my perspective of how things were and thinking I needed something else to take me, like I was missing something that was getting me to this next level when it was just time. I just needed time. More time doing what I knew how to do, which is work hard and be smart and put on muscle and train intelligently. I just needed more time, but I was in such a rush. I'm like, I don't need anybody. I start doing my own stuff. But the thing is, in that time when I took that break, I learned more about me than any time. So I trained with myself and I trained intuitively and I did stuff to feel stuff. I found out how I could feel my quads better. I did all this stuff because I understood it was like, I can't always rely on someone else. I have to do this myself, and I have to have good understanding of my body myself. And once you do that, you'll find that you need very little help. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is empower people to like feel things better and understand movement. Because once you do that, it doesn't matter what workout you do. You could do any workout you want. You could follow like Hunter Labrada's training style. You could follow like Hadi Chupin's, like any of these guys you like and you look like them apparently. It's like you can follow all these training styles and any type of coaching, right? because you know how to lift efficiently. So the sets and the reps and the fucking rest times and all that stuff, they become like little like side factors, because your movement is so good and you're on muscle so well that muscle's always being stimulated and always growing, right? So that's what the goal of this channel is to get people to understand that by no means am I telling you you should lift like me. I'm probably never gonna give a training program, to be very honest with people. I might give people training templates of like how you could structure a workout, and then you plug and play in exercises that you want. You know what I mean? Or little sample workouts of like combinations of exercises I like to do. But it's like I wanna empower people and get them out of this mindset that you need to be like, follow this dogmatic approach. Like, I only do progressive overload, and every week I do this deadlift, on this day I do push-pull. It's like, do whatever works, man. Like, find what works for you and do it. Create your own fucking training style. Don't follow other people's shit. Take the best from these 3 training styles you like, mix them together in a blender and come up with your own, right? But just make sure your movement's efficient. That's all we care about.